Thanks for watching another 4-letter word video. Today's word is fear, and we're going to talk about anxiety and how it's impacted our lives.
Talking about anxiety gives me anxiety.
And that's why we need to talk about it.
So this is something really important to share because I know that so many people struggle with anxiety, and so I think it's just important to share the things that we've learned along the way to help other people.
Yeah, and a lot of this we're learning now. Just yesterday we started a new Bible reading plan that's dealing specifically with how to overcome anxiety, and so we wanted to share some of the tips that we've been learning through that process.
Oh man, I hate talking about this stuff. Yeah, I've just had anxiety for kind of as long as I can remember. I mean, when I think back to my childhood, it was more, I think, social anxiety. I was a very shy person. As I got older, I didn't really know what anxiety was. I remember at one point my sister and I took an online test to see how anxious you were, and we both were like super high. And I was like, oh, I'm an anxious person? I thought we both thought it was just stress.
Yeah.
But no, it's so much more than that.
At our church last year, we went through a series that dealt with the mind, and one of the definitions of anxiety was anticipated disaster. And so what we've learned is just how are we managing our thought life and learning to anticipate the best and not the disaster.
Mentally, I'm always thinking of the most negative outcomes of everything and just trying to mentally prepare for these bad things to happen. And so like constantly I'm just in this state of fear.
Yeah.
And like it turns into depression, and it makes it really hard. And sometimes I think I try to deal with it on my own and I forget to bring it up with other people.
And for myself, I'm not naturally an anxious person, but Katie and I have been together for 8 years, and so I felt like, man, it's my duty as her husband not to fix her, but to walk with her in this journey and say like, man, God, how can you show me how she can rest in your peace, and that we can walk hand in hand so she knows she's not alone.
So through this plan, the first step is to identify the trigger. The word trigger triggers me. So you're trying to figure out what's causing you to be anxious. And one of the biggest questions under that really like is helpful to me is, why does it have so much power over me?
Mm-hmm.
If you can answer that, already you're gonna feel like we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, it's really good to sit down and identify those things, and that helps me understand how I can help. Mm-hmm. Instead of just being like, what's wrong? Why are you acting this way? If it's like, hey, what's the trigger or what's causing this feeling, then we can work together.
The second step is to write down your thoughts, and then ask yourself, is my thought process rational? Is it being led by the Spirit or led by fear?
Yeah.
And that right there, like most of the time, it is led by fear. So it just helps me to say out loud, like, I am being led by fear.
Yeah, and as her husband, I can help if she's outlining different insecurities that we have. Maybe there's things that we can change. Maybe it's time on social media, maybe it's something that she saw earlier that's triggering an insecurity or a fear, and that triggers a thought process. The third step is to take notice of your reaction to the trigger. If you're on social media and you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to your friends or their vacation photos or whatever, take note of that. Yeah, like whatever it is, just make a note. Man, I'm feeling less than because I'm comparing myself.
And then try to find a healthier way to respond to it. So the examples that they give are journaling, praying, or talking to someone. And I think just by doing these steps, it like forces me to talk to someone. And so already I feel like that's the way that I can react better.
And you don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah.
Part of anxiety is like, man, I feel like I'm the only person who's going through this. Nobody's going to understand. But the more you bring light to that situation, it's like, man, I've got somebody I can go to that can walk with me through that. The fourth and final step is bring yourself back around to the reality of the situation. Oftentimes when you feel anxious, the disaster that you anticipate is far greater than what's actually going to happen.
So then you need to think about 2 other positive scenarios of the outcome. So a lot of times I'll just think of like, oh, this is what's going to happen, it's going to be bad. But instead I have to tell myself, no, what if it goes really well? What if it's the opposite of what I think? And then when I start to think that way, it really helps me to like feel more excited about it instead of like just dreading that situation.
I hope this is helpful for you. We're learning this right now as we go through it. Different ways that we can combat anxiety and communicate better about it. Let us know if these have been helpful for you. Thanks for watching.